Stephanie,
Hey, how are you, Joshua?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
I'm honored. It's
Yeah,
a lot of fun. I was reading through your questions. I'm really looking forward to our time together.
good. And I think you probably saw in the post that I did. This is, and this I meant it when I said it. This is a little surreal because, of course, I've been watching you do interviews since my freshman year in college at Gonzaga,
Wow.
quite a few years ago. So now finally being able to interview you is surreal and really, really cool.
Oh,
So
thank you. Honestly, like sometimes people go, "I grew up watching you," and I'm like, "Wait a second, I haven't grown up yet. How could you grown up watching me?" But I did
indeed,
it.
yeah, we hopefully none of us ever grow up. That's
No,
important.
exactly.
Yeah. So, I usually get to say, how's the weather and how are things going? But I know how the weather is because we're in the
Beautiful.
same city, and that's rare
Um,
because I know I do this with women all over the world. But it's gorgeous this morning. It's an amazing fall morning in Spokane.
Fall is one of my favorite seasons, especially just the leaves are changing, and I love the reds and oranges and yellows. So it's a beautiful day here in the Northwest.
Yeah, it really is. So, what have you been up to this morning other than chatting with me briefly and getting ready?
Well, I went to yoga. I go to hot yoga in the morning, so went to a 7:30 power class, which about wiped me out. So I should be due for a nap here shortly. Did yoga, just getting ready for work. Ate a little bit of food, and looking forward to talking with you.
Fabulous. Would you say that's your normal routine?
I
Just
would,
the
yeah.
yoga and
Yoga, it all depends. Sometimes I meet some girls out on a trail and we'll go for a 20-mile bike ride, or I'll walk my neighborhood. That we've got some hills around here, so I'll get out for about 45 minutes. So I just try to switch it up. Sometimes I'll do both if I have enough energy.
yeah. And I asked that because as you know, one of my last questions is self-care. So I thought I'd broach it right off
Oh,
the bat.
God.
But so here's the question that is burning in my mind.
Okay.
What about what you're currently doing moves your heart? What really touches you there about the work that you're currently doing?
That's a great question, especially now in the day and age of media, right? Because I feel like so many people are down on media and they like to lump all of us into one box, so we're all fake news. And I think that that's been the hardest challenge in the last, say, 5 years when social media exploded. And there were lots of different theories out there. There were lots of questioning, which I completely understand. I think that you should question a lot of things and even go and do your own research to find out. But always stay open. Hopefully, always stay open. And I think that's my biggest goal right now is to continue to seek and search for the truth, to do my job in a way that, is so thorough, which I think I always have, but even more now being questioned is that I know where the source is coming from and I know that I'm getting another side to the story. So I think that just rising to the challenges that we've been given, especially in this climate, it has been both, at times it could be deflating and other times it could be really you could feel really good at the end of the day. Like, yes, I know that good journalism is still out there. It exists, and you have to abide by your standards and principles.
Yeah, being driven by your values.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my old CEOs used to say when shit would really hit the fan, she said, "This is an opportunity." And
Yeah.
so it sounds like, to me, it sounds like you're treating this as, it's a huge challenge to verify, to validate, to vet, and be transparent about the whole process so that people understand, no, there is fact, there is truth.
Right.
Here's how we get at it. It sounds like you've taken on that as an opportunity to show that.
I think one of the ways in which I matured over the years, especially as a journalist, wasn't by talking. It was more by listening.
Hmm.
Actually maybe asking a question and then keeping my mouth shut. And not pretending like I know things. I learn new things every single day. One of the reasons why I love this job so much is because not one day is the same. We're always, breaking news or just events are always happening in life. Seems like it's more and more nowadays because we have so many channels to go to. But really listening to people and trying to get perspective on where it is that they're coming from.
Yeah. Would you say that you started off in life when you were very young, to some degree, a listener?
No.
I
Not at all. I
didn't
was
know, so I thought I'd ask.
class. I was the one that had to go stand outside because I was talking too much. I was not a listener.
Tell me about your childhood and just
Oh, okay.
learnings that you had in situations, experiences that you had that kind of helped
Yeah.
shape you in your early years.
Oh my gosh, I've had a million of them, right? We all have. I've had, let's see here, when I was 3 years old, because that's pretty much, I guess the time you start remembering around 4 or 5 years old. And it's so crazy how you do remember maybe not the most positive things in your life, maybe more of the negative. I think that's human nature. But my parents got divorced when I was 3 years old. And
Mm,
so that's how I remember my life, as to, always having two homes to go to, two places to go to, and
mhm.
visiting my father and then living with my mother. And so both of them got remarried. And as I was thinking about the questions, I started thinking about, what shaped me. And I think a lot of what shaped me was really not getting, like, I wasn't just handed things. I had to work for them if I wanted them. And while it may have seemed really mean, or how could you, why can't you just give me that money? Instead, I have to work for it. As a child, that was a huge lesson in my life, to learn how to work for what you have.
Mm.
And I started very young as the paper girl. I would go deliver papers in the morning, and then I would go collect the money, and then hopefully they would give you a little tip. But my stepfather used to always tell me to, why don't you go across the street and ask our neighbor if she was hiring. She owned a burger stand. It was just a truck stop burger stand called Burger Tree. And
Mhm.
I would go over there and ask her, Bobette, do you have a job that I could do? And I wasn't even 16 years old. So she would have had to pay me like below minimum wage at that time, which I think was $2.35.
Yeah,
And
taking
I
us
would go
back.
ask her, and inevitably she would say no for months and months, and I don't even know, maybe a year. But I finally, the last time I knocked on her door and I asked her, Bobette, do you have any work for me? I'd love to come to work for you at Burger Tree, hoping to flip burgers and drink all the Coca-Cola that I wanted. And so she said, yes, I do, actually. And I went so excited to be able to get there and eat the great food that they had. And instead I had to wipe down the greasy walls. And that was my first, oh, it was horrible. But you know what? Elbow grease, hard work, the ability to not give up. If you want something, keep asking for it.
Mhm.
And even having that money in my hand at such a young age, and having to be responsible for it, and having to buy my way through life, was interesting to me, because I think I learned the value of, number one, hard work, never giving up, and being accountable for the money that you made, and making sure that what you did with it. My dad gave me some great advice one time and said, if you really want something, go to the store and look at it, examine it, try it on if it's a piece of clothing, and then leave. And if you really want it that badly, you'll go back the next day and get it. And I've done that
Mm.
several times, and I've
Mhm.
not returned.
Mm-mm. Walk away power.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have the oomph to persist and keep asking the gal across the street, or was that your dad prompting you?
Probably being prompted.
Okay.
I don't remember back then, but I always obeyed him and listened. And, I did want the job. And it was kind of funny, as I'm thinking about, growing up in my tiny town. I worked at Burger Tree. I was the newspaper girl. I worked at McDonald's. I worked at Wendy's. I worked at the water slides that we had in our neighborhood. That might have been, I might have had 5 or 6 jobs before I left high school.
Yeah. That's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
I'm no worse for the wear, that's for sure.
Mm-mm. No, my sister would say the same thing. She worked for McDonald's for 3 years when she was in high
McDonald's
school.
was great. They always worked around your
Awesome.
schedule. So if you
Mhm.
had athletics, if you were playing any sport or doing anything in band, they would let you go and always work around your schedule. Plus the cheeseburgers, they're really good.
And you learn
Beef
customer
nuggets,
service, and you learn how to handle money, and there's all
right?
kinds of cool things. Yeah,
Exactly. Could change your
definitely.
attitude and your mood, right?
So then you are not from Spokane.
No. No.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Northern California. So I
Gotcha.
lived in the Bay Area for 12 years of my life and then moved to the Central Valley, a town called Manteca, California, until I
Mhm.
graduated from high school.
Yeah, interesting. Most of my extended family are in the East Bay, in the Bay
Oh,
Area. Yeah, I was born in San Jose.
oh, I was born in Walnut Creek and lived in Fremont.
My aunt lives in Walnut Creek.
See, there's always one degree of
Small.
separation.
That's right. Just 1 degree. That's right. That's hilarious.
I
So
know.
then you came up to Spokane. Did you come straight to Spokane?
I did. It was my first job outside of California. My second job in television news.
Mhm.
And I was a reporter in Sacramento. So then when I came up here after 3 years of experience, I'm going to be honest, I got tired of walking over dead bodies and meth labs and interviewing people in jail. And there was just a part of me, especially once I became a mom, I used to take that home with me and I would dream about it and it consumed my mind. And I thought, I need to probably separate myself from actually seeing it. I mean, even though we still do, but being at the anchor desk is not,
Yeah.
you don't do the day-to-day beat checks.
Yeah. And then here to Spokane,
Yes.
and
Oh,
tell me.
this was a 2-year stint. I was going someplace else. I mean, back then, Katie Couric was really super popular and
Yep.
famous. And I mean, I would look at her with adoring eyes like, oh my gosh, I want to be Katie Couric someday. But
So
I'm here 25 years later, and I absolutely love it.
what kept you?
A lot of things. I had my co-anchor just retired last week after 25 years of us being together,
Mhm.
and realizing, it really isn't about the money. It's really not about the market size. I mean, you can't buy chemistry, and I really feel like what we had all those years was a chemistry that we just got along. We knew without even looking at each other what we were thinking, when we were going to share the story. Yeah, it was an awesome. We started out as morning anchors and then moved to the evenings for 22 years. And
Mhm.
so he recently signed off last week, and now I'm solo, just sitting there all by myself.
But I could see that. I remember thinking that so many years ago that you guys had that chemistry. It was different.
So I can have a little
Oh yeah, that's
sunshine
fine.
or
Go
something.
ahead.
Okay.
No, it was different. It felt very comfortable
Oh,
just
thank
watching you
you.
two. Yeah, well, I think that's what you're talking about, and I think that's why the community
It's like
really
a good
embraces
marriage.
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, the only thing we didn't do was raise children together, share bills, but we were together 8 hours a day.
It's a
And a lot of
lot.
married couples are not together that long. So
Mm-mm,
going through
mm-mm.
life with somebody like that. And, I got a divorce here. So my kids were very young. I did not want to move them from town to town. And for me, that just feels so selfish. And so, and plus Spokane's such a great market and the people here are wonderful. You
Mhm.
couldn't find kinder people, I don't believe, in the world. I love this area and I love our community and how giving it is.
Yeah, can't agree more. So when you first got here, talk about some pivotal experiences you had. I'm gonna then, of course, ask about mentors and some of your perspective on different things. But right at your when you first get here, the first couple of years, um, you're getting your feet under you, and what are some experiences that you had then that really made you think, oh, I might stay here long term, and shaped who you are and how you interact with people? Those two pieces.
Yeah, well, let's see. When I very first moved here, I thought that it was beautiful. I'm such an outdoors person. So I loved the long bike rides that I could take. I love the lake, getting on the water. I've had a boat here for 25 years. We moved up here with a boat, and love Lake Coeur d'Alene is our home in the summer, just being on the boat. My friends, you don't really get a chance to make new old friends. Now my friends are old friends, but they're just good people. And I love how we fall into seasons. I mean, when football season starts, we're off the lake. It doesn't even matter if it's still warm outside. Everyone's just kind of doing different things.
Mhm.
And the 4 seasons are beautiful because you get to ski. I remember before I did the late shows, I would do the 5, 6, 10, and 11 at night. And I would go ski. I would get my skis. The kids would go to school and I would put my skis in the car, and my girlfriend and I would run up to Mount Spokane and ski for 3 hours and then race back home, take a shower, and start my day at work. And so having that, especially with my friends in the Bay Area, they would always say, "Oh my gosh, it takes 5 hours to get up to Tahoe
Tahoe.
with
Yeah.
traffic." And for us, it was a 45-minute jaunt up the hill to ski for the day. So I mean, I just think that I enveloped the lifestyle. I think we need to be a little bit hardier up here because of our seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a little bit of grit if you want to live up here, because winters are a little bit longer than summers are, in my opinion. And if I was going to like it here, I needed to embrace everything that that this place had to offer, which
Yeah.
I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, I think you have. Talk about some challenges that you had early on when you were here that you had
Well,
to overcome, things that you didn't
well,
expect.
I did not expect in California. There's a lot of Spanish, Mexican names, and up here it's Indian, right? So Manito would be Manito in California. So I think that was the hardest challenge, especially being on the air, because they know you're brand new when you can't pronounce their names.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
That was super tough. I
Yeah.
mean, even back then, in 1997, there were a lot more men in the newsroom than there are women today. And
Interesting.
so I was really still living in a man's world in the news industry,
Hmm.
even though my news director was, and the owners of our company, female.
Hmm.
I still had my interactions, my day-to-day interactions and on the air with a male weather person, all male. I don't remember, I think maybe the last 10 years, females have really gotten into the sports industry,
Hmm.
or at least at our station. So I was surrounded by a lot of men. And I think realizing the difference between men and women, men can jab each other and go have a beer. If you jab me, it's going to hurt. And so I think I didn't really understand that until I started realizing, like, that's the way they speak. Like,
Mm.
they're not going home and taking it with them. Whereas I would go home and take it to heart. Like, ouch, that really hurt. And
Hmm.
then I started to, I guess, be more confident, um, understanding that I'm taking things personal when I'm realizing now that sometimes that's the way it is. And I know that definitely things have changed. And I'm really glad that they have, because maybe that was me just brushing it off to the side. Whereas today, I really wouldn't brush things off to the side. I would approach it
You
head
would
on.
address it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So to rephrase, do you think that you were doing some accommodating when
Oh,
you were first here
I would say
of
100%.
that?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And do you feel that over the time, since I mean, it's a rare thing to be in a position for over 2 decades. And do you think that the team has the conversation, I guess, the opinion point, has it shifted so that now the team accommodates you more, or there's more of just an understanding? And when you have new people come in, how does that look? How does it look different
Yeah.
now?
Well, I think it's different. I think that when you stand up for yourself, and not in a way where you're just being combative or you're saying things that are mean or rude, trying to get back at somebody, but really coming from a place of, I'm trying to reach a goal here. And that would be that we both understand what we're talking about, that we're communicating properly. And I think with that comes respect. They
Hmm.
respect you more when they know where you're coming from, that you're not being degrading, belittling. I mean, right now, everyone in that newsroom that's working there just about could be my child. And
Interesting as that.
I am the old timer, but I do like the fact that they ask me for advice, that they want to get better, that I want to help them. So I think
Mm.
that things have changed because times have changed. I think that's changed because more women are there. I think that I've changed and have grown as a person and learned how to lead in a different way than I would say I knew how 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Who's helped you along the way? Who have some of your mentors been?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's so many people, so many. I mean, I did not do anything by myself. I remember, the man who really changed my life. I came from a very middle class family. My mom was the lunch lady, and my dad was a meat cutter at Safeway.
Mhm.
And we really did not have, college was you could do it or you don't have to, but it wasn't a must in our family. So I think that along the way, people encouraged me and helped me and gave me the words that I needed, or just some kind of confidence that built up inside me. But I remember Jim Sanders, I bugged him, just like I did Bobette Blevins when I wanted to work at Burger Tree, to hire me, even though I had no experience whatsoever. I was on the radio doing traffic reports, and this gentleman, bless his heart, he's no longer with us, Jim Sanders, he, I guess I ran him, I wore him out, I ran him to the ground because he finally hired me. I would go over there, I'd drop off tapes. That's how we auditioned for the
Sure.
job. And I told him how I would work so hard and scrub the toilets at the end of the night if I were just given this opportunity to become a journalist and work for him. And I remember when he finally said, I don't think I have a choice because you're just not going away. I loved him so hard, and I hugged him, just shaking him like, you don't even know how you changed my life. And he did. He really did. And I am so grateful to him. I'm so grateful to my parents moving up here to help me raise the boys. I'm so grateful for all the wonderful words that people said when I didn't maybe believe in myself, that they saw something in me, and that really helped me. My husband is one of my biggest cheerleaders. My sons, I mean, they can't tell me enough how proud they are. And those are the reasons why my friends and, a gazillion people that have been just so kind and given me an opportunity to become the best version of myself.
Do you have anybody who you've sought out as a mentor, like a go-to
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
sage in your life?
Yes. Actually, she was my news director that hired me here at KHQ, Patricia McRae. And when I was going through some difficult times, I really felt like I could trust her. I really felt that if I had an issue, that she was going to be level-headed and teach me ways of getting through situations, not bailing out of them, not losing my cool. I'm Spanish, so I'm not going to lie. I could have a little temper now and then. And I have had to temper that because it's not productive. And so just having that person that was in the industry, that knew the pressures that we face, that knew where I was in my life, and was just my biggest advocate, and helped me to overcome some situations by thinking it through, talking it through, and mentoring me.
Can you detail out how your approach to conflict has changed over these years? Because you've touched on it just briefly,
Well, I would say thinking about it, not being reactive, but taking the situation and trying to put myself in somebody else's shoes. What are they thinking? What are they going through right now? How is that different than what I'm thinking? How can I talk to them? Almost figuring out how to phrase things to be able to talk to people to get the most out of our time together, so that way we don't come to a point where we don't like each other. Let's find a common ground. Let's find some respect here. Let's listen to one another. I mean, it's just like you would want in a successful friendship, in a successful marriage, in a successful work environment. You really want to know, like, what are you up against and what are you coming here with? I remember when I was getting divorced, and there's a lot. If anyone's ever been divorced, they know that there are so many different emotions. There's guilt, there's regret, there's just a lot of things that come to it. And then you've got to bring yourself to the table every single night. And none of the thousands of people that are watching you have any clue what's going on in your personal life. Nor did I want that to happen in my professional life.
Right.
So visualizing me putting my shit down at the door before I walked in, swiped my card key to get into the newsroom, and focusing on other things, other people. How are you? How was your day? What are you doing, taking in school? If some of them were still going to school, and really just getting out of, because I think that where we're at in society, with everybody just having steadfast, hard set rules. This is the way it is. This is how I believe. If you're not, if you don't believe the way I do, then you're shit. And that's not true at all. Like, you should just open yourself up to, I do want to listen to you. I do want to hear what you have to say. I am going to try to put myself in your shoes. If you can tell me a little bit more about your experience and how you might be feeling and why.
Mm.
And
Empathy.
I graduated from Gonzaga as well with
Yeah.
my communication and leadership master's. And I think that was awesome too. And another point in my life sorry, that was a fly,
Yeah, same here.
that I learned how to mature. Our brain is it's plastic. It's got a lot of, it's moldable. We can change if we truly want to change. We just have to be willing.
Mm-hmm. When did you get your degree at Gonzaga? Your master's there?
2013.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you graduated?
I graduated, 2013.
We have had some parallels. I graduated from City University in Seattle with my master's in 2013.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
There's nothing better than walking across that the platform and hearing your name being called. I mean, and that's another thing too. I did want to emphasize is, finding your own challenges in life that make you feel more confident. Having goals. I'm such a goal-oriented person, but mainly to stretch myself to places that I really have never been before. And I remember getting my master's and hearing the president call my name and thinking, wow, this is such a moment. I don't know that I ever would have put master's degree on my bucket list, but it definitely was so worth it.
What was one of the standout classes or instructors, if you would?
Well, John Caputo.
Mm-hmm.
John Caputo was awesome. He was my mentor as well while I was there. And, when I graduated from undergrad at Sac State, I graduated with a 2.00000. It was almost a 1.999. And so when I went in, however many years later, I was 46 when I graduated with my master's, they put me on academic probation. So I was on academic probation 30 years later. And I thought, oh my gosh, now I really have to prove myself. And I was so afraid that I was going to fail. And I got a 3.9. But
excellent.
It was just super cool to, I guess, I took undergrad. So not as serious. I paid my way through and it took me 6 years and it was not the easiest thing to do because you're 20 something and you also want to party. And I was a blackjack dealer in Lake Tahoe. I mean, there were lots and lots of things that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. But my studies definitely suffered.
What about Dr. Caputo was compelling?
Because he was just so open. He was just so open and he was always willing, when I needed to come in and ask him questions. I mean, there were times he's like, I got this book. You want to borrow it? I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. I don't want to pay $150 for a book. That'd be awesome. I mean, just being such a nice person. And he goes to Italy in the summertime. I love to hear about that because I love to travel. And I just think that we really clicked in very basic way.
Mm-hmm. That's the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're fairly well connected with other female journalists in the area, around the country? What does that landscape look like for you?
Well, I wouldn't say around the country, but I definitely would say in our newsroom. I do. I am a girl's girl to the nth degree. I want women to feel empowered. I want them to have a voice. I want them to know and have the confidence. And I love these younger ladies that come into the newsroom and they're working hard and some days are not good. And I've been there, so I know that. And I really enjoy helping them. I mean, even as much as helping them dress for the occasion, put on their makeup. They didn't have to do that. They put their hair back in college and they're,
right.
Okay, well, the medium is, put a little bit of shine on, or let me show you that I was taught when I was younger, but also too, how to be a good journalist. The questions to ask, and they all want to get to another market. This is pretty much a beginner's market now. It used to not be, but it is now. And helping them to define a style and to create their own way of reporting on the news and telling it, and maybe adding a little bit more to their voice, inflection, and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. There's just a lot more that goes into it. Now, I'm a baby journalist, right? Having done this for 2 years in this very niche, select area, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. what are some of the more difficult things that you face normally now, regularly at, in your position? Not so much. Not. I mean, you think it sounds like you've got some things dialed in organizationally and the
Mhm.
culture that are
Mhm.
really cool. But stories that people that you interact with, news that comes about. What are some of the most challenging things that you face nowadays?
Well, I think what we face nowadays that's a little bit more challenging is how vocal people can be. When they hide behind a screen, when they want to tell you things about, what you're doing wrong or how you're looking. A lot of times, especially with females,
Mhm.
it's more, they don't even know what I'm saying. They're mainly, I don't like what you wore tonight, or that color, it doesn't look good on you, or wear that color more. They become armchair quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And so you're in their home and they feel like they're connected to you. So they will tell you. I mean,
Interesting.
a lot of that stuff I'm just saying right now, but it rolls off me. I've been doing this for far too long. I don't let that stuff bother me. If it's shallow, if it's something that, if it's something I need to hear, then I am absolutely, if journalistically we're doing something wrong, one of my biggest pet peeves is when we misspell things and people are reading it. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. We need to have
Mm.
maybe more eyes on it, not
Mhm.
just a set, but have 2 or 3 sets of eyes on it before it goes out to the masses. But I think that the challenge every day, honestly, is how different life is today,
Mm.
is to be able to accept. I mean, there were so many times when I first moved here, reporting the news in Spokane, Washington was a whole lot different than reporting the news in Sacramento, California. I went out in Sacramento with a bulletproof vest on if I was going out to the south side of Sacramento. We don't do that
That's
here.
intense.
Yeah, we don't do that here yet.
Yeah.
Yet. There's almost a shooting every single day. There were 4 shootings over the weekend. And that's just something that our city has. I don't want to become accustomed to it. But I'm fearful that this becomes a trend.
Mm.
I'm fearful that we need to have so many different things take place in our life so
Mm.
we can all feel like we are valued and
Mm.
we belong. And I
Mhm.
think that that's just not happening right now. I think that's the hardest thing is where is this going? Where will it lead to? Um, will we ever get back? There are so many sayings, the more things change, the more they stay the same, or, it'll circle back around. Will it really circle back around? I mean, I don't know that it will. I'm afraid to say that I don't think it will. I think that if this is our new norm, what's next?
Mhm.
And that scares me for my grandchildren, for
Mhm.
your grandchildren,
Mhm.
for your children. It's like we can't accept this as the norm.
What would you say is your individual professional mission, given all these things that you've said,
Hmm.
as far as the changing landscape of journalism, our community, how it's shifting, the communities around the world, all this movement.
Hmm.
When you get on the screen, what is your mission? At the end of the day, if you can say, I did this, this is the thing I wanted to do today that I do want to do every day. I was able to pull it off today. What is that?
I think that my mission would be to clearly communicate.
Okay.
I mean, and that sounds so like, wow, really? That's it? No, no, no. Clearly communicate
Hmm.
where you can understand what I'm saying and that I'm making myself clear. I don't think a lot of people do. I think that a lot of times you're left with too many questions or you don't know. I want to bring myself to the table every day with an open mind, and the ability to communicate in the way that you need it to happen for you. I wrote a book. I didn't
Mhm.
just graduate from Gonzaga, but I was fortunate enough to design a class for them. And I think that my personal mission is really what's in my book, Reputation by Design. It is to have a good reputation because a good reputation is valuable.
Mm.
And that may not sound like much, but it's the tiny little things in life. It is the communicating, it is being grateful and having that gratitude and following through with a good old fashioned thank you note. I mean, it's your appearance and how you carry yourself. It's your behavior. What are you saying to others? When it's your social media. I
Mm.
mean, what are you putting on your social media sites and what is that saying to somebody that may want to hire you,
Mhm.
somebody that will never look at you because of the things that you're writing or even who you're affiliated with. But
Mhm.
just to be clear in who you are and what you represent, it for me, it's done wonders for my life. I've watched people fall from grace for the past 30 years in this profession. And I've seen it. I know that they've lived in shame. I have a lot of examples of people who have. There's always time to redeem yourself if you have fallen from grace. If, I guess, it depends on the severity of what you've done,
Mhm.
and how people are willing or not willing. But falling from grace, like this whole name, image, and likeness with these college athletes,
Mhm.
they may never make it to the pros by ruining it with what they do
Mhm.
in college. And there's a lot when you rise to a certain level of whatever it is, fame, your job
Influence.
description,
Mhm.
right? That you do have a responsibility, and I realized that when I became the evening anchor. I'm like, wow, these are big shoes to fill.
Mhm.
How when I became a mother, these are big shoes to fill. What do I want my children to see? I mean, so I think that what I really want is for my true authentic self to always be in play,
Mhm.
but to clearly communicate with others and to really like walk the walk, walk the talk. I can't write this book without really truly believing in it. And
Mhm.
so I think that once you know who you are, there's no greater confidence that you could have. Nobody can stroke your ego enough and give you confidence. You have to earn that by your own doing your own life and doing it authentically and doing that with, the sun. I'm sorry.
So it keeps moving.
I feel like I just have this big white ball of sun. Now it's too dark. Sorry.
It's
Um,
okay. There you go. That's fine.
okay. But I think that more importantly is just, coming to the
Yeah.
table every day as who you are. I hope I made sense.
No, that did. What would you say to your younger self? Your younger self. I can't talk now.
Well,
20-year-old self. What would you say? What
I
would you
think
say?
most people would say, don't worry. Like, why did she worry so much?
Hmm.
And now I look back, I'm like, wow, everything turned out. But I also think if I didn't worry, then it wouldn't have driven me and propelled me to other places. So if I didn't worry, then maybe I would have become complacent.
Hmm.
So I would say to my younger self, damn, your skin looked good. I wish I could have that skin back again. But,
I hear
I
that.
think my younger self enjoyed life. And I definitely know that my older self is um, enjoying life. I think the younger girl in me, that curious person, is still there. I love to learn. I love to travel. I love to know new things. I read books like I need to drink water, just to have an experience.
No kidding. Now you don't have to say anything about them because it's not. This show's not about them. But you have kids.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I
How
have
old
two
are
boys.
they?
They are, wow, this is going to age me, 22 and 26.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
two boys. I
That's
mean, that was so fun. I'm such a boy mom. We love going to sporting events, and we love being outside, and we do a lot of things together. They don't live around here anymore. One's in Dallas, Texas, and the other one is in San Diego.
that's not okay. No,
Well, it's a good place to visit.
that's true. That's true.
I love going to the beach, and I love seeing Dallas. Everything's big there,
Yeah, big D. No kidding. I've
Mhm.
got 3 boys. That's why I asked. I
Oh, you
wondered.
do? Oh, so you
Yeah,
know exactly.
yeah.
You've
But
got
they're
lots and lots of.
little ones.
You're
Yeah,
on
I've
the
got a.
other end.
Oh, go ahead. You.
I said you're on the other end of the spectrum.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. Yeah, I've got a 4, an 8, and a 12.
Wow.
So yeah, very, very busy, very
So
loud.
awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, um, you said that you read a lot. What are you reading currently?
Right now, I'm kind of dabbling in a lot of things. I'm reading this book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Hmm.
And that's by a doctor who has done just so much research on how your body really, will keep the score of all. If you're dealing with trauma in your life, your body will somehow make sure you feel it. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, it is. It's super, super interesting. I love writing quotes down, but yeah. So I have this book. that this is an awesome one. And just, some of
Yeah.
the chapters, owning yourself, the unbearable heaviness of remembering,
Mhm.
the hidden epidemic, developmental trauma, what's love got to do with it? So just that's wonderful. And then I have another book that I'm reading. This is Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper, his mom's Gloria Vanderbilt, and the
Mhm.
whole Vanderbilt dynasty that they had. So just started that one. I'm reading Steve Jobs' book, and then I read his daughter's book, Small Fry.
Yeah.
And those are the last 4 books that I've been reading.
Why do you read?
I read to relax.
Mhm.
I read to unwind. I read because I need more words in my vocabulary.
I do too. I like that. What are some other self-care things that you do? You mentioned yoga in the morning
Mhm.
and getting out and being with people. What other things do you do to keep yourself healthy?
Well, in the wintertime, I snow ski as much as I can. And
Mhm.
then one freaky thing that I started doing, we have a swimming pool. And so every time the water dips down into the 50s, like today, I think it's 50 degrees,
Mhm.
I will do a little cryotherapy. I know. I think my friends definitely think I am insane, but I really love it because it gets my adrenaline going. And I've read a lot of research on it. This one man, Wim Hof is his name, and his wife, this sounds morbid, but his wife committed suicide and left him with 4 children. And she was clinically depressed. And
Wow.
he was learning how to not be depressed and how to raise his children. And he ended up realizing that cold water works wonders for your body, for your mind, for your endorphins, and
Mhm.
it also builds resilience in somebody. And so I was like, that sounds kind of cool. So I started getting in the water, maybe every other day. And now I Jones, and when my husband's like, "Oh, we got to turn the heat down," I'm like, "Yes, it's time to down." And then I'd ask him every day, "How cold is it today?" Because it feels really cold. So I like to do that. I like to do hot yoga. I love being out on my bike rides with my girlfriends. I love walking lately for some weird reason because I'm not a jogger whatsoever, but just walking. And I have a grandma that's 109 months old. So I'll call her and on my walks and just my dad, reconnect with, people that don't live near me.
That's fabulous. What's your favorite bike ride in the area?
Well, I do Fish Lake Trail because I
Mhm.
used to do the Hangman Loop, but
Mhm.
I almost got hit 3 times. A lot of
Oh
people
my
are on their
goodness.
phones nowadays, and
Yeah.
I just can't do it. So I just do Fish Lake Trail.
Mhm.
But we did Schweitzer mountain bike down Schweitzer this summer. That was gorgeous,
Mhm.
beautiful. And if
Mhm.
anyone that's listening or seeing this and you're not from this region, this is an awesome place to come and hang out. There are lots of, if you're an outdoor enthusiast, places to go around here, lakes and
Yeah.
mountains and stuff.
It's a unique place in that, I mean, Seattle, of course, is well known, REI, and well known for the outdoors, but you still
Mhm.
have to travel quite a ways if you're in Seattle to get to the outdoors.
I know.
In Spokane, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're in the
40
middle of
minutes,
nowhere.
we're on Lake Coeur d'Alene, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
take much at all.
It's an amazing place. Yeah. What what is your greatest hope for women in your industry
Hmm.
moving into the future?
My greatest hope is that they love the journey, that it really is probably a labor of love. It's hard. It's really hard. You do see a lot, and you need to have balance.
Mm,
To find a great group of friends that you can balance yourself on, that maybe aren't in the industry, somebody that you could talk to, finding a mentor to be able to be honest with and open with. Gosh, seek counseling if you have to get through some things, maybe that you have seen, or maybe even life, just to never give up, never stop being curious, always wanting to seek the truth, and do your job with
mm.
journalistic integrity.
Amen.
Mhm.
Stephanie, this has been a blast.
Oh, I've had a great time too.
Thanks for chatting with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
We'll be in touch.
All right, Joshua,
Have a good morning.
take care.
Bye.